Okay. So call to order. Okay, so roll call. I have Bonnie, I have Darren, I have Renee, and I don't have anybody else. Okay, quorum present. Okay, 6:32. Okay, time for a public comment. Does anybody want to have a public comment on a non-agendized item?
I have one.
Yes?
Do we have any minutes from the last meeting?
No, I did type out, I was typing out my report, but I didn't finish it. But I understand that I'm not required to make minutes for a...
Oh yeah, I know you're not required, but what I'm concerned about is now with the new rules that say the committees have to do roll call voting as well as the board on the items. For the public to know what the committee vote was, there needs to be a written report at a minimum that shows who was in attendance and how the who voted on what and
so
how.
So if I do it as a report rather than as minutes, then that is sufficient?
I would think so, as long as there's a public record of the motions and the roll call vote on those motions.
Yeah, I want to find out what the rules are, because...
There's no rule.
Yeah.
I mean, the rule is that you had to do the roll call vote, and Jerry reminded everybody of that when he was here at the last meeting. That when we were voting on the clock, that we had to have a roll call vote. So my point is we need to have some reporting of that roll call vote for the public record somewhere, whether it be report of what transpired at the meeting or actual minutes, however you want to do it. But somewhere in writing as public information, we should know the vote of each standing committee.
I will see if I can get it put on the agenda, because next month is when it's going to be on the agenda anyway. So I'll see if I can get him to add it to the language on that agenda.
Which is what Jim did with outreach. If you noticed on the agenda, he put the people present and the vote into the motions.
Okay, that was good. Okay.
Which is an alternate way. I think a report would be nicer, but...
Yeah, but what worries me is to be honest with you, I don't want to have somebody, contact me, 3 years from now and ask me for all of my minutes for all of the meetings that I did here on a volunteer basis, and then I could spend hours trying to assemble all of that. So sometimes it's easier to not do something than to have to worry about the requirement of where do I keep them, how long do I have to keep them, and what's my responsibility for how soon do I have to get them out, what takes me a while to locate them, and then there's the printing of them and the emailing of them, and it's very time consuming. So if the law
I'm just asking that there somehow or another there be an official report of the roll call vote of the committees. That's all.
Okay, just one other, not on the agenda. I'm in an area called, I guess, no man's land in a way, and it was reported, according to Mitch Englander, yes, it has passed. You guys are Granada Hills now, in Granada Hills South. I'm south of Devonshire, north of Lassen.
You're in the new area.
I'm the new area,
right.
But nothing has happened yet because they said there has to be something else done by the North Hills City Council presenting the letter and stuff like that.
Right, they have to get, okay, our bylaws, as far as I know, had to be amended. By the way, it's not my committee. I mean, I'm on that committee, but it's not this committee. Which they've already agreed to do. Then I think they presented it, and I was not at the last neighborhood council meeting, and then I understand that the neighborhood council that you used to be in has to amend their bylaws to delete that area, because we can't just have our Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council take over another neighborhood council's domain without the other neighborhood council agreeing and deleting it out of theirs.
They need to delete it out.
And then I think the bylaws for both of them have to be approved, I think, by the city attorney's office or done or something.
Yeah, I think somebody was discussing that at the last meeting. I think it's
done. It's already been done, but
I don't think it has been, because it takes a while for Dunn to get things done.
That's funny. For Dunn to get things done.
Yeah, so it's in the works, and our neighborhood council very much wants you guys in our neighborhood council. You guys are part of Granada Hills.
We did our part, didn't we?
As far as I know, we did our part. And,
I understand you guys did your part.
okay, and so the other one has to do their part, and then the government has to do its part, and then maybe it goes back to each council to vote to approve the bylaws. Because I don't know if we could, if they could have a motion, but I don't know if they can approve them till Dunn tells us we can approve it. A lot of red
One of
tape.
the things, I was on the beautification committee down there where we did a lot of cleanup and everything.
Oh,
It's
great.
In fact, my cul-de-sac, I notice the neighborhood nothing when I get out there and sweep off our cul-de-sac, not just the street, everybody's driveways, walkways, and.
Hey, you're more than welcome.
You're welcome. Show up at our meetings.
Even the street sweeper that comes around and asks me to do this one house that's about 4 blocks away from me.
We welcome you to our beautification committee.
Cut the trees.
I forgot, I was gonna have a list. Paul!
Can we get your name and number?
Yeah, I'm gonna have let me see if I, now that
I
I'm
enjoyed
stuck
it.
in here.
That's for the operation, I can't.
I just needed to give me a legal pad that I can pass around.
I'm cutting trees 2, 3, 4 blocks away from my house.
Do you see
That's
Paul?
actually
What's that?
one of the things I'm proposing to do, that we can maybe possibly do.
Hey, Adam, can you give me a legal pad?
Ugly houses in the area. I think
Okay.
and maybe get some work done on those.
On their property?
Yeah,
On their property.
sometimes if you go talk, just knock on the doors and like what I did,
You're-
I put it
yeah.
on myself. I'm sitting there with my tree trim and stuff and I said, would you mind if I cut your trees? People
We
walking down the
We've
road.
done
Organize
And they look
civic.
at me like, why? I said, well, because I enjoy doing it.
We've had beautification cleanup days here. We used to host them in our parking lot, sometimes on the same day as Operation Sparkle, and sometimes we just created our own with the Biz Improvement District, which is the 8 blocks. And people would take weed eaters and all kinds of things, and we would go all around and clean up in front of people's planter boxes, and we mowed the lawn.
Yeah, one
At
project.
the Better Triangle and on the corner before it was owned by Menchie's, because it was so bad off.
Took us several Saturdays, was we went from Roscoe all the way down to Havenhurst, cleaning. Was it
The Parkway?
The Parkway, all the way down.
Yeah.
It was disaster. That was beautiful for
Yeah. For a while.
On our cleanup day, Richard Fisk and I went around with red paint and painted the
painted
do not,
curbs.
huh?
We painted the
We
curbs.
painted curbs with a bright red, and so that they would
The
be
paint the
prettier.
city gave it to us, here, go at it.
With spray or with
No,
roller?
the city gave us the
Yeah.
equipment, rollers.
The
and
official
we-
paint.
The official
Right.
paint. And the city gave us brooms and
I think
shovels
we
and
painted
all
one in front
kinds
of
of
your
stuff.
house.
I'm very interested in
No, you did
getting
not.
this done.
We didn't?
No, you missed my house.
Everybody comes to me all around.
You missed the old house, too.
No,
And you
Actually,
missed the
pass
house
it around
before
for
that.
people to put their name, address. I mean, their
Oh,
name,
here,
their
let me,
email.
can I do it?
Yeah,
Get
sure.
it started for you?
Yeah, you can
There
start
we
it. Thank
Okay.
you. very
Because it
much.
has to have some language on it.
Okay. Do you
May I
want
borrow a
this pen?
pen?
Catch the pen.
Okay.
Oh, well,
Not a good catch,
sorry.
but
Good enough.
Thank you very much.
you're more than welcome. Glad
Okay.
to volunteer.
We'll have you do your cleanup day. That sounds good. Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And what is your name again?
Mike Majors,
I think.
10015 Valjean. Well, they've been there since 1968.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
How many different cities have you been in since that's in that one?
Sepulveda.
But yeah, back then it was kind of no man's land. Some people said Granada Hill, some people said Sepulveda, some people said Mission Hill, some people said Northridge. It was, we're in that little pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always been.
North of the Veterans Hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always been a part.
And actually, one guy on the corner, Frank Cavaldi, he has the old thing when those houses were built in 56, it says the Granada Hills, an old wood corridor.
so. Yes.
That's what it was known as.
No, it was important.
Yeah.
Granada Hills,
Hey, see you, Paul.
And somehow you guys got changed
No,
over to North
I did.
Hills, huh?
We got changed over to Sepulveda.
Oh, Sepulveda.
It became Sepulveda, then North Hills.
No.
Yeah.
Should be.
I used to own a condo in Sepulveda, which I happen to like living in Sepulveda. I
It
like
did have a nice ring to
So,
it. But,
Paul and my wife, thank you.
Yeah, when I bought
Paul and
the
my wife
house,
were
I
around running a
68.
recycling thing together.
for $22,000, I had no idea. I hope I get my money back.
Richard,
when
it
I
might
sell
start
it.
getting warm in here. There's an air conditioning unit behind you. Either ask Paul, just ask Paul
Paul
to
just
turn our
left.
air
He just
down.
left.
Oh, okay, okay. Behind now it's stuck over here. Okay, right above the file cabinet.
Move and let you
Now,
out.
did you see it?
Yeah, I got it.
Now, you do the little arrow, make it just go down. I'm assuming it's still on. It doesn't say off, right?
No.
Okay, I think that's working. Just want to
68.
pull it off in here a little bit more. Okay. All right, we're ready now. No more public comment, right?
Guess we'll go back now.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to have a presentation by Linda Williamson on the People Street Plaza project. Okay, the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna talk for 10 minutes. I'm gonna show you a video that lasts 10 minutes, and then we'll talk. We'll open up to questions or whatever. So, about this picture, note it's for illustration purposes only. It's not a finalized plan. It's just a tool that helps people visualize the rough idea of what we're doing. Okay, and no finalized plan exists yet, because the way LADOT does these programs is that they do phase 1, community support, and then if there's established community support, then phase 2 is them doing traffic studies, planning, and basically the traffic engineering work. We're not even at that stage yet. So that's why this is just a tool for a visualization. So I'm sure all you guys know, if you didn't already, that Jake and Andy are, Jake the property owner of Menchie's, and Andy the franchise owner are at this point not on board with the idea. I just wanted to disclose that in case there's anyone here that didn't know that. But also need to let you know that we've asked them for a meeting to sit down and provide them with updated economic impact data. The last study done on LA's other existing plaza, which is Sunset Triangle in the Silver Lake area, was done back in October 2012. And so I wanted to be able to provide them with more up-to-date information, and I thought that the city was going to have an updated study that I could just call up and go, here's that study. It turned out the city never got around to doing that study, so I basically went out and did it myself. And but I'm confident that this information makes a strong economic argument in favor of the plaza. And so, now that I've just disclosed that about where things are with Jake and Andy right now, I think it's also important to know that we have the support of a large number of neighboring businesses. The ones you see here have all provided signed letters of support of this project. And also, Jason, the manager of the Starbucks across the street, says he supported the idea and hopes it happens. Carrie Boutros, the community rep from Granada Hills Charter High School, said, we think this is a great idea. And we also have lots of enthusiastic support from the community, tremendous community support. We now have about 1,000 petition signatures in favor of this project, and every week we get more. And because the Neighborhood Council acts as a voice for the community, I think it's really important to take that into account. And I think it's also important to understand that this isn't just a poorly thought out idea for a happy fun park. And, in fact, I can show you and will show you hard evidence that these projects have a proven track record of being positive for business as well as for communities. This isn't just me saying, hey, I think this might be fun. I've actually gone and surveyed the fronting business owners at Los Angeles' first plaza, Sunset Triangle. They've all said it's been positive for their bottom line and for their community. This is Julie Cho. She's the owner of Mornings Nights Cafe, which is the primary fronting business at Sunset Triangle and the one that's been there the longest, both before and after the installation of the plaza. So she reported that when the plaza was installed in March of 2012, her business went up by 20%. And I'll show you that shortly, but first, since this is the Beautification Committee, I'll address the concerns most relevant to you. This is a letter Bonnie sent out, and in it you raised a lot of really important questions about traffic, about the barriers, about the furniture and the asphalt and trash and mess, and I understand why the Beautification Committee in particular would logically be concerned with all of these issues, so let's address them. So first is the description of the project as a request by persons without a business interest in the community. That's true. I am not a business owner on Chatsworth Street, but I feel passionate about the community, which is why I started my blog, and I've brought the first food truck nights here because I want to see Granada Hills thrive. I support Mayor Garcetti's program because I've seen evidence that it can help us do just that. And one of the things the business owners at Sunset Triangle said was that their plaza had turned the area, the word they always use is destination. It draws people in. So in Granada Hills, we could be a destination, not just on the food truck nights like we are already, but 7 days a week. Not having a business in the community, I don't think precludes you from community involvement, and I sincerely think these projects are a win-win for business and community. And like I said, I have some hard data that can prove that. And next we're saying don't rush blindly into a decision because this will affect the beautification of our commercial corridor. I absolutely agree. Do not rush blindly into any sort of decision. Let's look at evidence, let's look at numbers, let's talk to business owners who've lived with this for 2 years. Let's do some homework, let's look at some background. This is a picture of LA's first plaza project, Sunset Triangle, and the concern is that it's going to be ugly. I don't find this particularly ugly, especially as you can see, the plaza is surrounded by 700-pound planters, which also act as safety barriers. I think they look really nice. The polka dot surface, some people like it, some people hate it, and it's important to know that if we do a plaza, we definitely are not required to cover it with green polka dots. We have a choice of colors and materials.
But still polka dot.
No, it doesn't have to be polka dots. Okay, here's another picture of Sunset Triangle, and I intentionally chose this one that prominently displays the cracked asphalt that Bonnie's letter raised as a matter of concern. Fortunately, LADOT gives us a number of surface covering choices, which they provide at their own expense. At Sunset Triangle, they opted for paint, probably because it was like the first one, the pilot one, but LADOT lets us choose from the following options. They paint, which is what they did at Sunset Triangle, and there's also something called epoxy DG, which is decomposed granite suspended in an epoxy resin. That will fill in those cracks, or also thermoplastic, which can be made into logos or designs or things of that nature. Again, this is covered at LADOT's expense as part of this program. And moving on, traffic impact on right turns has not been determined. That is completely true. It's not been determined, but it will be once LADOT does their study in phase 2, which we're not in yet. We're in phase 1, which is community support. So the thing about losing the right turn lane, which will cause traffic to back up on Zelzat, well, that hasn't been determined yet, but when I spoke with DOT, what they said was that the buffer lane that's directly adjacent to the triangle will be restriped into an additional right turn lane there.
It would eliminate the 2 lanes going forward now. If you can eliminate down to 1 lane going north.
No, what the representative I spoke to at DOT, and like I said, this is preliminary, we're not in phase 2 yet, but there's a lane and then there's a buffer lane. She said that that could be restriped. So yes, so there would be the same situation that you have now. You have one going straight and one for right turns. And I don't know if it would be right turn only or straight and right. I
can't go straight.
Can't go straight. There's not another lane on it.
Okay. Well, I'm hesitant to really go into like the traffic engineering issues of it because that's not my. I'm not knowledgeable enough to be frank.
It's just a possibility that there's enough room there to make a right hand.
Not for the buses.
But anyway, it's important to know that this isn't just some people putting up some orange cones and hoping for the best. This would be constructed and engineered by the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. So moving on, the next point of concern is that barriers would be unsightly. Again, I refer to this picture, and this is their planter barriers. But also, they give choices of furnishings that they recommend from vendors, benches, another style of planter. They give this other version of planter, and then the next question, the letter.
On these planters and benches, who pays for them?
That's where we have to get a community partner. So DOT does the engineering and the surface covering and all signage, and community partner. DOT provides, the first planners that I showed you that are at Sunset Plaza, those are also provided by DOT. But if you wanted, I'm just showing this because this is Beautification Committee, if you wanted to opt for something else, that would be an additional cost.
Could it be an addition to the planners that they give us?
Yeah, or instead of. I mean, the ones that I showed you in the picture are the ones that they give you included. But if you wanted to say, hey, we want something fancier, there's other options too.
Okay.
Typically, the specifications are same or equal, and up from there, as long as the minimum standards of whatever they spec out on those 700-pound ones. Typically, as long as it meets whatever they spec out for those, you can go up from there and improve in any way you want, as long as you make the baseline.
Yeah, because those white ones right there are the barriers.
Yeah.
And then the planters right behind them.
He's coming.
Yeah. So the specification would be to, upon a car impact, that would have to meet certain requirements on the impact.
Just like those sand
filled water tubs.
Exactly. So you're going to abide by whatever their minimum spec is on that bollard, for lack of a better word. But
who's the community partner on the one that you were showing the picture of at the beginning of this?
There's Silver Lake Business Improvement District, and I actually interviewed Janelle Levin, who's the head of that organization, and I interviewed her on video and asked her a lot of questions about maintenance, about their costs, about how they deal with graffiti, about everything I could think of to ask her, I asked on video. Okay. And I will provide, I'll put that up online on YouTube, so you guys can watch it.
Who or would you think of as being the community partner on this one?
Well, I've talked to a couple of organizations, but I kind of am, I feel like it's a little, nobody has been willing to come forward yet and say, yes, I'll be the community partner, because this thing is so in flux right now with the issue with Jake not being on board with it. Yeah. Basically, no one's going to come and say, yes, I'll pay for it, when it's still
you don't have any idea what the cost would be at this time.
Well, my best estimate is about $20,000 to $25,000 for the initial setup. If you use like the basic style of, let me show you, these benches, like if we got like 8 of them, I mean, it's really, LADOT gives us so much leverage about choosing which kind of furniture, and I said, well, are we required to get a certain number of benches? And they said, no, that's up to you. And so this is why, I'm having a trouble giving you, it's going to cost this many dollars, because we have a lot of choices that we are free to make. And so, like, if I said, if we got like 8 of these, or
now if DOT's supplying those, then what is the $20,000?
With DOT, no, this is DOT. DOT approved vendor.
Okay,
DOT doesn't cover
They
this.
do not give them to you.
Okay.
No, so the community partner has to fund the furnishings.
Do you know who is paying the perpetual care on the corner, the triangle that is landscaped right now?
Jake from Ken Cleaners.
And bid, I understand, yes?
And the Rotary. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
yeah, and I'm also going to.
They've also they're all like tapped out. In order to get that corner done, they had to agree to this perpetual care. Do you have any idea how much it costs them every month to do it. I mean, you know, if you're gonna try to get approval on a corner and then go back to these organizations and say, you know, we want you to pay for it, none of them are, because they've already determined what they're gonna do. So, you know, you're not just talking about the 20,000 or 25,000 initial, you're talking about maintenance, which is quite significant. It's a significant amount of money.
How much do you think would it cost to maintain a corner like that? What that has a floor covering that is epoxy, possible receptacles that need to be emptied.
Blowing of weeds and stuff. And
well, it just depends on the design. So we probably could keep it to a minimum.
Right. It's an extension of a few
Because
hundred square
if you notice
feet.
those plants, those were
They have to be watered.
those were drought tolerant plants inside those planters.
Very low maintenance.
So yeah, exactly. They probably have to be watered maybe once a month. So you know.
I thought the VFW 2323, the post there, did maintain part of that already there on the veterans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Chamber of Commerce paid for the gardening and water for that for years, for years,
me.
decades, yeah.
I'm sorry. I had my hand up here. I've been
Yeah.
waiting. You're
Go
having a
ahead.
discussion.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
want to
Sorry.
know if Linda's done with her presentation.
No, not yet.
Oh,
Okay, can
Yeah.
we go ahead and let her finish
Alrighty.
so that we can have discussion and public comment all together without having to feel like we're
Okay.
interrupting her?
All right.
Thanks, yeah. Okay, so, where was I? Yeah, the cost, obviously that's a super important question, but like I said, it's kind of cart before the horse. No one's gonna come and say, hey, yes, I'm gonna fund this. I mean, I've had a couple of really well-placed people saying, if you get this support, the money has to come after the support, not before. And at this point, no one's going to come forward and say that they're going to support this with it still being totally in flux. But you know, I didn't really realize this was an option until the discussion last month about the clock. That a neighborhood purpose grant from the neighborhood council is maybe could be one portion of some costs. So, the final paragraph, the concern that the project is going to be haphazard. It's engineered by the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. It's not just us putting up cones and hoping for the best. And it's backed by Mayor Garcetti's office. This is a picture of the mayor and council member Englander at the Northridge Great Streets launch, which this program is part of. And when you go down to Sunset Triangle and see the area for yourself and talk to the neighboring business owners, you're going to see that it's in fact not covered with trash and graffiti and broken furniture and mess like the concerns raised. It's just simply not the case. And in fact, what's happening there is that every summer Thursday night they're having movie screenings, which supports local businesses. It's every other Thursday in summer they have movie screenings. They have a lot of really happy business owners there. They have a restaurant called Pine and Crane. Time Out is here saying, be prepared to wait in line if you want to eat there, because it's so popular. The change in parking and driving on that stretch of street has not held them back at all. And they've got a farmer's market twice a week on Saturday and on Tuesday afternoons. So that's tomorrow. Drive down there. It's really nice. And one of the most important things to keep in mind, this program is temporary. It's not permanent, it's temporary. It's just, not only can we see what impact this has had at Sunset Triangle over the last 2 years, we could see what impact it would have in our own community, and we're asking for a 12-month temporary permit. If that doesn't work, all this is reversible, the street goes back to what it was. If it's a real problem, we are permitted to pull the plug prior to 12 months. Temporary. So that's my part of the complete presentation, and now I'd like to share this interview with Julie Cho, who owns Mornings Nights Cafe, which is, as I said, the fronting business at Sunset Triangle, and that's been there the longest, both before and after the installation of the plaza. Julie was really happy to talk about her experience on camera, and I'd like to show you that now. This is a video. I'll just show the video, and then we can have our talk. Hi, Julie. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Julie, and I'm the owner of Morty's Nights Cafe in Silver Lake.
Okay, and can you tell me about how long has your business been here?
I've been here for about 10 years now.
And how long has the plaza been here?
Plaza's been here for about 3. We're going on the 4th year now.
Okay. And how has having the plaza been here impacted your business?
Basically, bottom line, we've increased 20%, and we're getting busier every year, actually every month, because at this point, this place has become a destination spot. So we're just getting busier and busier.
And when the plaza first got started, did you have any resistance from other neighboring businesses who were concerned about the change?
Absolutely. I mean, the hardest thing for anybody is change. And people are used to what they're used to. But when you look at the broad picture of everything, because I literally had to sit down with a few business owners and explain to them what the benefits would be, because they were pretty iffy about it. You know, some were for it, some weren't. And after I sat down and talked to everybody and explained to them what the benefits would be, they were on board. And regardless of financial reasons, this was good for the neighborhood, it's for the community. And without the community, we have no business. And that is something I have to explain to them. Because without the community's backing, we're nothing.
Right, so once you got over that hurdle and then the plaza was installed, it seems like people have generally, business owners here have changed their minds about their initial resistance?
Absolutely. I mean, I just got a new neighbor that she came in a few months ago, and the plaza was the main reason why she chose this spot. There were other spots open, but basically because of the plaza is what pushed her to want to come into this neighborhood.
Okay, and when the plaza was first installed, you lost some parking spaces, though. Is that correct?
3 spots. And I think 3 spots is nothing compared to what the community gained.
Okay, and let's talk about, putting the community aside for just a moment, let's talk about your business. So this was a positive for your business. You said, did you notice a difference so you were here for several years before the plaza, and then after the plaza you've been here, and you have noticed a difference?
Well, it increased foot traffic. Number 1, foot traffic, and anyone driving by can't miss this plaza. I mean, unless you're blind, and it's, people are like, oh, what's that? I've never seen a pedestrian area, because literally we have kids riding their tricycles, people throwing football, and it brings people in.
But what about the fact that cars are no longer passing right by your business and parking right in front of your business?
This street was so dangerous, people would fly off of Sunset and literally miss a stop sign we had at the end of the street.
Okay, so crossing the street here and getting to the triangle that's right behind us.
It was dangerous because people would fly off of Sunset, the main street that we're connected to. They would blow the stop sign at the end of the street, and people were dodging cars basically.
Have you noticed any increase in has the foot traffic created any increase in problems such as graffiti or anything of that nature, or people loitering, or has there been any difficulty regarding that since this has become more of a destination?
Absolutely. You know what? In all honesty, there's less graffiti, there's less loitering because it is so busy. Before we were so hidden, and I honestly do get people walking into my shop saying, I never knew you guys existed.
Even though there was cars were free to drive right next to your shop, people didn't know you existed?
Basically.
Well, can you say that again?
They would drive right on by. I mean, when you're zooming off of the street, you get used to your surroundings, and I was never noticed, in all honesty. And with the plaza that has come in, people have been noticing my shop more.
Even with those 3 less parking spaces?
3 parking spaces.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit about events that happen here at the plaza and what those events are and how they've impacted your business?
So every other Thursday night we have a movie night where it literally brings about 300 to 500 people. They all bring their kids. It's a family event. They bring picnic baskets and we watch a movie. And it's been great. We have music night sometimes, and it's just great to see everyone out. And that just makes your business more busy. And we do sponsor the movie nights, so basically people who haven't even been in this neighborhood start learning about us. Because it pulls people from different neighborhoods.
Okay, and can you also tell me, so has it been a hardship for you to have to pull this furniture in and out every night? Is that difficult?
Absolutely not. I'm more than happy to do it. It hasn't been a problem.
Okay, and also, let's see, what other questions can I ask? I just want to have the most full and complete and accurate and honest information. Have there been difficulties associated with having the plaza here that you've encountered?
It's only helped business, and it's only helped the neighborhood. In all honesty, I really can't think of one negative thing that has happened with this plaza company.
And the neighbors who initially had reservations, their reservations were based about what? About the change in traffic patterns?
Yes, just any kind of change. I mean, their biggest gripe was they couldn't drive down the street. But my thinking is, number one, it was dangerous. People are blowing that stop sign at the end of the street, and it won't kill anybody to go down one block and take a right turn. It's not like they don't have access to the street that was blocked off.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been really great, and so I'm not sure if I can think of any other questions. Anything else you'd like to share with our community?
I just think this would help the community so much, and any businesses involved. I know change is hard for people, but once you look at the broad aspect of everything, it's just going to be a benefit. And I had my reservations at first too, but from what has come about from this plaza being built in, it's only been positive.
Okay.
As a resident of the community and as a business owner.
Okay, and do you rent this property or own it?
I rent. I lease it.
And how does your property owner feel about the changes too?
He loves it. People are clamoring to get into the apartment building he owns next door also. Because you don't find this in LA. You don't come out of your doorstep and have people enjoying the sun and relaxing. And people walk their dogs through it. It's just great, and it's beautiful to see that you don't see this unless you're in the park. You can see that you walk down from your doorstep and have beautiful positive pictures.
Right, and the traffic patterns has it slowed down traffic coming through here or caused any bottlenecks in traffic in the intersection?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's so much safer. There hasn't been one accident since the buses come in at the end of the street where people blow their stop signs. There's actually, on the other end of the street, bikers used to get hit all the time. And literally it'd be once every few months, I would see a biker on the floor where I have to run over and call 911. But not one accident since the bus has come in. So if that doesn't say it all, I don't know what else to say. It's just a
Okay, I'm gonna just get a shot of the phone number of your shop here, and it's okay if people, someone. Oh, is that the? Just if anyone wants to like confirm you or get further information.
323-664-881.
Thank you, Julie, very much.
Of course.
The life of a journalist, right?
I know. Well, she was really. I felt like it's really important to talk to people who have had this experience and been through it and actually lived with it for the last couple years. And it's really important to take that into account. And I will share on my website, gig@granadahills.com, all the other interviews that I did with other business owners and with their community partner as well. So I will have a link to those videos if you care to see more interviews. But it was pretty uniformly positive. And I think that their first-hand experience is something really important to take into consideration.
What is the primary residential unit and population density around that plaza?
I don't know the answer to that question. I can find out for you.
It's pretty dense over there.
It's,
That's the point.
Yeah.
And how many of the storefronts had vacancies in that plaza there? Did you see vacancies? Was every single storefront?
Okay, well, as far as, yeah, I can tell you, I can kind of give you the rundown. Actually, I have a little bit more about that, like the history of vacancies there and stuff like that. Yeah, there is, so there's 3 businesses that are directly adjacent to the plaza. And that is Nice and Mornings Cafe, which we just heard from. There's a grocery called Yummy.com. And because I guess they also do delivery, and there's the restaurant Pine and Crane, and those are the ones that directly abut the plaza. And and there's also a little bakery called United Pastry, I think.
It's Filipino.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're great. I had their empanadas. Oh my gosh. So so those are the businesses that are directly, and then across the street there is a vacancy in this building. There's a building that's across the street from the plaza. It used to house a Mexican restaurant called El Conquistador, and adjacent to that there was a hair salon. The El Conquistador closed, and I think that was one of the things that Andy was concerned about when I talked to him, because he said, well, I heard that one of the businesses right next to the plaza went out of business.
I was there for like 30 years.
About 40 years was what Janelle Levin told me, and she said that what happened was when the plaza came in, El Conquistador, having been there for 40 years, they were about ready to retire, and the plaza coming in spurred the landlord to raise the rent up to market rate. In this article, an interview with that owner, he says that they had a sweetheart deal, and once they brought rate up to market, they said, well, it's time for us to retire anyway. There is the hair salon, the same thing. It was Fandango. Yeah, Fandango Hair Salon, which is right next door, was also part of that rent increase because it was the same property owner, and so they opted to move. And so the landlord opted to raise the rent because the profile of the area had gone so much, and so that is vacant. That's the only vacancy of the immediately surrounding businesses there. And El Conquistador, the Mexican restaurant that had been there for 40 years, closed for a while and then was revamped as a new Mexican restaurant with a named chef, and they revamped it and made it higher end. And they actually, part of the revamp was changing the doorway, the entrance. So the doorway was on the other side. They re-engineered it so that the doorway was opening out to the plaza. And
Revamp picture?
huh?
That's the revamp picture?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
It's a nice loft, and you can't really tell.
right, and they have a name chef and everything, and let's see, where was I? So yeah, these people are so happy with their location in the plaza that they've actually volunteered to to pay some special improvement costs for some upcoming projects that they're going to do.
Sometimes the traffic report from the traffic gets when they study the traffic, is it going to slow down traffic, people getting through that intersection that will bypass that area just to get around it? On some traffic studies, they haven't had any traffic study at all on this yet, have they?
DOT won't do it till we get support.
On this in Granada Hills?
Yeah.
Yeah, DOT won't do a traffic study until we've established that there's community support for the idea.
Did all of those businesses all agree and get on board to the closing of the street in front of them before it was done? Or was it done against their will or wishes?
No, I think that what she said in the interview was that they had some meetings and there was definitely some hesitation and some reservations, but they all came to an agreement to try it on a temporary basis. And just to see, they said, okay, well, we'll do it for the year and see what happens. And then after that year, they elected to make it permanent because they thought it was a positive for them.
I am familiar with the area, particularly because of United. I seem to remember that triangle is quite a bit larger than our triangle, correct?
I don't have precise square footage.
It's like a street in between.
I think it's comparable. I really think it's comparable.
It is.
Is it larger?
You run the dimensions. The street itself, the curve. If you would take the arc of our curve versus the straight line of that, I bet you could find square footage dimensions are almost entirely the same. In all fairness, just to chime in at this point, I owned a house up the block, 1 block away from this property. So, actually, if I could just get it going at this point, this is my third go around with community triangles. You know, being a native New Yorker, when the Times Square triangle came about, and I went home to see my parents, 57th and 2nd, brought my children. It was like, wow, finally, like a safe place in the middle of everything that's going on that like these little ones could run around. When I owned the house on Effie, 1 block off of here in 1996. This triangle was a dump. It was a crack haven. It was an armpit of Silver Lake. This was not a nice area, of course, with the quote-unquote hipsters and Beck and everybody else. In the first wave of gentrification in this neighborhood, you know, obviously I sold that house and moved to the valley eventually. But the bottom line is that that when you look at the house that I had now versus what you had then, coming out of that same house is this little guy and his mom and his dad, and I've seen them come down to this plaza and like just bounding. When I was over there and I owned this was you wouldn't get out of the car to stop at this spot. Okay, the woman there, Julie, you know, when she opened that place, she was basically linked to El Conquistador as you know, as the first new person to come in a long time. But since she's been there, since they closed the street, you see every single vacant spot has now been sandblasted, and they're opening up the hipsters, and you have the diner that was around the corner became this great place called Good, and there's this great Tantra Indian restaurant, and you have the Cliff's Edge. Basically what you have is money and young people and progressive demographics taking root in a way that otherwise was never there when I lived a block away from it, just as the same is the case for Times Square. And now that I live here in Granada Hills, 8 years in and 3 months or whatever, coming to these food trucks, the idea that I could finally take Sophie and Alexandra to a place in the middle of a street where something's going on, and for them to enjoy as a resident, as you know, tenancy here, to me is like finally everything's finally aligned the way it should be. You know, so
the only thing there is I beg to differ is we're not talking about the armpit of Granada.
We're not, but 8 years ago,
this is already nice.
Yes, but 8 years ago, when I first moved over here into Gothic, I lived.
We're talking about the way it is right now.
Exactly, and we called it Old Granada, and we did an improvement down the center, and we put in sprinkler lines, and we did all these things that have truly improved the thing. So I don't want to. It didn't start at the same level of horrible that both of those neighborhoods did, you know. But it wasn't what it is now.
If you
and it just seemed to evolve.
You said you lived a block from here?
Yeah, 1 block up.
So what is the primary housing around that area?
you have a lot of craftsman houses, you have a lot of houses from the 20s. This is actually at the foot of, more appropriately, Los Feliz, Hyperion, and Rowena, which still has its auto. If you're familiar with Thomas King Middle School, it's right there as well. You know, I still have very good friends on all those blocks, Manzanita, all of them. For a number of years, you could tell the growth from the Silver Lake Festival that was going on, the street fair was going on, as it went from, you know, donate $1 to $5 to $25 and all these things. So what happened was they started opening up a conservancy, and they still opened up the cheese store, and they said, you know, it's not just, it wasn't just this triangle. The triangle came about because people were starting to gather, and you know, the evolution of the triangle itself was, they were like, okay, we're starting to see some more people come around and all this. Maybe we should try to, you know, mow the lawn on this thing. And then it became, we set up a monthly farmers market, which I attended because I work downtown, so I'm still passing by all the time. And then from the farmers market, it was like, you know, maybe we should start seeing if people would like to spend more time here. And that's how this whole thing steamrolled. Again, it's like identical evolution to, you know, when finally there was food trucks here, and I didn't have to, you know, go on Twitter and find out where the grilled cheese truck was. I could go down the street and know where it's going to be on Friday. You know, every Friday it's going to be right there. You know, all these things started happening. You know, the Silver Lake thing, the Echo Park thing, Los Feliz thing is to me phenomenal. I mean, I think it's wonderful. But I see. What we have going on here with Joe's Cafe and a couple of these places that are opening up, it's like the same, like, seeds of, you know, of a beautiful garden are started. Even Menchie's itself, when it came, what is it? What's the year? 4 years? 5 years? You know, it was just like, look, we got a yogurt place down the line. You know, I know there's other ones, but that one's particularly established elsewhere and became a destination, at least for my family. You know, like, there's just been a lot of little things that have been. I mean, Starbucks wouldn't take over Burger King if they didn't think they had the foot traffic and the people in the neighborhood to sit at that huge spot. You know, it's like there's people here, and you know, it's the destination terminology she uses like that. You know, that people, that I have friends in Los Angeles that want to come out here, and, you know, to Jersey over here out in the suburbs, and, you know, go to Friday night food trucks is startling to me, because they couldn't even have in the past. They maybe could have told me about the Eichler tract up down low, you know, about what they know in the valley. I mean, you know, my peers, you know, but
this the owner of the property, that, you know, her owner, Julie's property, that owner owns an apartment building apparently across the street. Do you know how many units that apartment building is?
Actually, here's what happened. There was an auto, next to Julie's space was an auto body shop. Maybe about 15 years ago, it was still pretty active. And the decrepit state of the apartment building that was across from that, which is really what you're talking about. It's her place, it's the auto body, and then there's this apartment building that she's referring to. And there's another one across the street. I would say after this small fire that happened at the auto body shop, and, you know, I personally remodeled a couple of houses in the neighborhood and everything. I had a great friend, an architect, Steve LeCap, who's up there. You know, you started seeing this sort of, you know, like, well, let's take this dumpy thing and throw a little, you know, modern, you know, a little thumbprint of mod on it. And what you started seeing was, as the restaurants and some of the storefronts started, you know, getting the plate glass replaced and going with a little, you know, brushed aluminum instead of this 1920s, you know, crumbling, you know, architecture that was going on there. You know, you had people who had more means moving into the place, and then they also demanded, you know, that when their friends would come by, they would want to move in there. And so then these buildings, a number of them changed hands, and money has been spent around the entire port. You know, one of the things I see is over here, just looking at that little remodel in the plaza over here, man, like, somebody did the demographic study. Somebody said there's some, you know, median income. There's somebody did the study for our plaza where Presto Pasta is, and all this when they remodeled, you know, where Steinhardt is, the plaza. Yes. I mean, it's, you know, still the same footprint for all intent. I mean, it's you know, it's just somebody spent the money and did the, you know, environmental reports and all this stuff, the impacts. And what I think was happening over here is there was a lot of people who said, hey, you know, there's a lot of people who want to live in this neighborhood. If we spent a little bit on the renovations of some of these apartment buildings, you're going to get a pretty pretty exciting group, and that's what's happened. Now, her landlord, I don't know him personally, but I do know landlords in the neighborhood, and I can tell you that every cent they put in, they've gotten out exponentially more out of what they put in, in a way that, I'm not getting out of my house and over here yet. But yeah, I mean, it would be hard for me to answer what the real, impact is on a talking economics and scaling it all in rough order of magnitude. All I can tell you is going up.
Yeah, well, this is another
little question.
Comments, you mean?
Or comments, sure.
Sure, I have some comments. One, to be up front, I'm still on the fence about the whole thing. But the only thing that keeps me on the fence is the thing that we don't know until later, and that's the traffic issues. As far as I'm concerned, Starbucks is a far bigger traffic problem than a triangle might create at this corner. Meaning I drove down the street the other day and an SUV made that illegal turn from the left-hand turn lane to go into the drive-thru and was blocking the right lane of the westbound street. So, I'm sorry, to me that was not thought out, but neither here nor there. That's a far bigger problem.
Starbucks took over that property because it already
had the drive-through. I knew it. There was nothing anybody could do about it.
Right.
But that's planning and land use issue. Let me get back to this. Number one, a concern has been brought up about. I look at everything here. I'm looking at both sides, both ways. The concern was brought up about the maintenance of the area. Well, the maintenance of the area is some furniture and some plants. It's not extensive like the maintenance that needs to be done on the triangle with the memorial bricks and the vines and the Christmas tree and the lawn. I mean, the maintenance on the triangle is far higher than anything we'd expect to see on a piece of street that's still a piece of street with some portable plants on it and some benches and some chairs.
Let me
go on. So I'm saying the long-term maintenance of something like this is minimal when you look at what's actually there. The other thing I want to bring up, and even though she's not here, I have heard Krista talk several times at the general meetings about getting a farmer's market started in Granada Hills. And it's always a problem with permits and where are you going to do it and the street closures and da-da-da-da-da. Well, if we have this, then that's a place for another event to happen in the community that we don't have available to us now. So I know a lot of people like farmers markets. They really do, and they really draw community people to it. The third thing I want to bring up is, and this really was my first point, is the point here is, will it make our community more beautiful if we do it? Because that's the purpose of this committee. We're not really talking about the traffic, the impact on the businesses. We're really here to talk about, is this something that would beautify Granada Hills in a manner that would benefit the businesses and the communities that are here? And so an open-minded viewpoint, I think, is appropriate at this point, rather than going off onto tangents of maintenance and traffic and various other issues. Finally, I also want to state that one of the main missions and purposes and scope of the new Granada Hills Community Plan is to make our streets and our business districts pedestrian-friendly as much as possible. So, if I were to take the pro side, I would say, everything from the city is saying, this is a good thing for our community. I got my concerns, but my concerns can't be addressed until we get to a certain point. And the first point we have to get to is deciding, would this beautify Granada Hills, and would it benefit the community as a beautification project that the neighborhood council could support? So that's where I stand, and just kind of what I see as Linda's presentation here. And I don't think she's really asking you for a decision today or one way or the other. Maybe she is asking for you to make a decision to support her, and whatever we can do, even non-monetarily, to help her process along. If it's a letter of support that you're after.
At this point, I'm just trying to get support for filling out an application with LADOT. LADOT could still reject it and say, oh no, the traffic problems are insurmountable, this doesn't work.
How does the
All I
chamber
mean,
feel about
that's-
this?
Okay.
The Chamber of Commerce, do they
all
have
right.
comments and stuff?
All right, the Business Improvement District, I'll start with them first, okay? They've put 12 years and $1.5 million or whatever into this 8 blocks of Granada Village corridor. They put in the medians, they fixed the sidewalks, they attracted the food trucks by fixing the sidewalks that were a hazard in themselves. Our sidewalks are especially wide, which is nice. We have attracted businesses that are putting tables and chairs out on the sidewalks, and they have a very large project that we're close to permits being issued for the corner of White Oak and Chatsworth, all 4 corners, to put in landscaping, decomposed granite, benches, sitting, you know, all kinds of things to make that a plaza. They're calling it the White Oak Plaza area. That's a lot of money, and it's being paid for by the bid. They work with the lady who cleans the streets after food truck night. I don't know if you guys realize she's out here until 10, 12, midnight, whatever, cleaning up after the food trucks.
Mary does a lot.
And cleaning the sidewalks, because there is so much mess left on those sidewalks that they wash those sidewalks off. And the Business Improvement District has a porter crew that comes out 3 times a week also. And we coordinate with her, so they're not there like right at the same time. They also come down. I paid money into the bid. I pay extra property taxes, and I'm not even on that street.
You notice all the leaves that come down on that sidewalk?
I know, but that's an issue that Mary brought to our attention
Mary's
recently.
It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, we've just asked the Port Service to do something about the leaves. The trash from the food trucks comes all the way down my street, all the way down, up and down White Oak, and it might not get cleaned up for several days on this. I pick it up myself. Okay. So the Business Improvement District has said they don't want this project because they are looking for beautification. And I'm sorry, it's just, you know, temporary furniture that has to be dragged in at night is not what we envision for what we're trying to get.
Well,
we want more benches and things on the street. There's a lot of things that could be put on the street that will make it so people can sit on the whole street, not just that corner. And this Improvement District does not plan to pay for that, and Jake doesn't plan to pay for that. And Jake, you know, he's paid for a lot of stuff, but you've got the 3 owners that are on that one that she's showing that were all on board, that have paid extra money for maintenance, and they put extra money into it, and she's willing to drag those chairs in and out at night, and the tables and chairs or whatever. They're on board. But we have a property owner who put tons of money into what is currently a corner lot, who put tons of money into the corner, you know, the Veterans Triangle, and who's been active with the Chamber, the Rotary, pays money in the business district, and he feels like he's being bullied into and threatened by, if you don't go along with this project, you're this evil person for the community.
Bullied and threatened.
And yes. Well, I'm sorry, but let me ask you a question. If the neighborhood council says yes, and you've got all these other property owners that say yes, they think it's a good idea, other people, not the ones that are right in front of it, but others, then, and Jake says no, he doesn't want it, and Councilman Englander says no, we're not going to do it if the property owner doesn't want it. You're not telling me that this isn't going to go back to the whole community telling Jake that he's the one person standing in the way of your project? Because that's what it seems to be. You know.
Why should one person have the authority to make the vote? Isn't it? It comes down to the basis of what Mr. William Koosman said. Does it beautify the community? That is the one question that has to be answered.
The business movement doesn't do that.
Well, business improvement needs to do some more research then.
And Bonnie, thank you for sharing the position of the business owners, and we know your seat as the commercial property owners, and you're bringing their opinion in. And Linda is bringing in the opinion of a lot of members of the public that say they want it. So, you know, we're a neighborhood council. Remember, we're here to serve everyone in the community equally. So all I'm saying is if you've all I'm saying is you've represented what BID's position is. Now let's look at, as Darren said, and as I'm asking, is it something that will beautify Granada Hills? and make it a better place for the community.
Okay, let me tell you about beautification, and then let me just, okay.
You know.
To fix the site,
They're not asking bid to do the maintenance.
Cost. Well, but
they're not asking bid to do the maintenance.
No, you have to keep it nice, okay?
Well, it's understandable, but we're not at that position yet. We can't find that position until we get support.
The traffic and everything else.
Well, the DOT, I sit on the Public Safety Committee. Well, we can handle that with the DOT, Mr. Foos.
But no, I'm talking about beautification. What do you think it costs to make the ground?
Well, look, we can't get to that part until we have. She started a plan here. She has a very nice presentation here.
All right.
Okay? It has the potential to be really great. It really does. I mean, if I was forget Jake as being the property owner, it might increase his property. What's the gentleman's name? Excuse me, let me finish. The owner of Menchie's, and he was watching this presentation, and you see how many people were sitting out in front of that place? 300 to 500 people. How much money could you bring in, especially when you have a dessert store?
We quadrupled the patio.
300 to 500 people.
Yeah.
Quadrupled the patio.
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't see it.
You didn't see
No,
it?
for the movie.
Watch. She can go back and
She said
right there.
She said on movie night.
Movie night.
She said on
Only
movie
3 to 5 people.
One person at a time.
Look at that.
Look at all those people sitting there.
on movie night.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's
so
moving,
okay.
Yeah.
So you can bring in some entertainment. So you can bring something else in. You can be inventive. And like she said, changing. People don't like to change. But the main question, does it beautify the community? Will it beautify the community? With the options that we have, I say yes, it does.
Okay, Richard?
Where do I start? With respect to farmers market, a little bit of history. We tried that with the street for about 3 years with a guy that runs the farmers market / over at Northridge
Mall.
And it didn't happen. It didn't work. They pulled the farmers market portion out of his supply. It was tried on near the college there for a while. That failed. It was tried up on Renali. That failed. It was tried over on Devonshire, and that failed.
It was tried in the city of San Fernando too, and that failed over there.
In the video, it was a little bit misleading when you asked her about the furniture. She can pull in her own furniture, which is only those chairs. According to the rules of the Plaza project, you cannot serve food in the plaza because it's a private company in a public domain.
Mm-hmm. But she doesn't serve food. The people
No. My point was that you asked about the furniture was kind of leading because the furniture in the plaza has to be.
That's provided by her.
No.
No, somebody else has to
Let me
put it out.
Let him finish.
Any furniture in there that is movable has to go in and out every night.
But we could opt for non-movable furniture.
Okay. Has everybody, I'm sure you've read the 46-page membership or application for the Plaza project, Linda?
Yeah.
Well, when we had our little talk, you mentioned that you would live by the fact that if there's facts, that you would stop doing this. The facts are here to have a community partner. A community partner has to meet certain criteria, and there's only eligible organizations that can be that community partner. One is the bid, one is the community benefit district, CBD, I heard that one. Chamber of Commerce, a ground floor business owner, fronting property owner, nonprofit or community-based organization, or other eligible community partner. And there's a lot of criteria for that community partner if it's one of the others. And some of the things, they have to have a strong and productive relationship with the property owners. They have to have previous maintenance experience and demonstrated capacity to maintain a plaza. They have to have a strong track record in the public realm. They have to have previous experience to coordinate free public events. And there's a lot of financial responsibilities that the community partner has to demonstrate to be eligible. They have to have the capacity to seek appropriate professional guidance. They have to have at least $1 million in general liability insurance, and they probably have to take out a performance bond. So, and also, the certain criteria for application for the project, 40% of his organizational capacity, which means the community, the partner. They also have to the site has to be proven and demonstrated to be underused. And the primary reason why I'm still surprised you're moving, you have to have a letter of support from the local council district, and you have to have letters of support from the adjacent property owners. And Jake has already said he's not going to happen. He said that on many times, and that's why he's not coming to any more meetings. He's done putting the time into it. So with all these facts, I'm surprised you're still going with this.
Okay, well, to answer that, when I last spoke with Jake and Andy at a Rotary Club meeting, when Jake very graciously invited me to attend with them. And
I was there.
Yeah, you were there, that's right. And Andy held up this study that said, you know, I'm really concerned about this study that says 50% of business, this October 2012 study, 50% of business owners there at the plaza thought that it was a good thing. That means 50% thought it was a negative. And I said, and I took a look at it and I said, well, that study is dated October 2012. If I could get you more up to date, when the plaza had only been in place for 6 months, if I could get you more up to date information from business owners, would you take that into consideration? He said yes. So that was one thing that made me say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead with this and provide him with more up-to-date information. Second of all, that study that said 50% thought of it as a positive, you look at it, the read of that is 50% saw it as positive, 45% said it was neutral. It was like, my business is pretty much the same. And only 5% said it was negative. Okay? And that was in October 2012 when the plaza had been in place for 6 months.
This plaza you're talking about?
Huh?
This plaza you're talking about?
Yes, I'm talking about this plaza.
Which is a totally different density situation than this one.
Right. It is, you know, Silver Lake is not Granada Hills. I totally give you that. However,
It's set up the same.
if we're going to do an evidence-based examination, this is what we have to go on. Everything else is speculation. This to me is the best thing that we can base.
Well, it's not speculation. If you want to draw pedestrians and there's a larger pool of pedestrians within a square mile than a lower density, it's not speculation. Those are just numbers and facts.
Well, okay, and so the numbers and facts that I have gained from speaking to the business owners there at Sunset Triangle Plaza have said that it's all been a positive and an increase for their businesses. And I'm not talking, I mean, I know that there's this perception of me, just like that I'm like, oh, to heck with Jake and Andy, I don't care, I just want my happy fun park. You know, it's not like that. What I would, you know, I am just trying to gather the information to show them this is a win-win. And if they still, I mean, you can't tell me that if Jake suddenly said, okay, well, now that I understand the first-hand experience of these business owners, now I'm willing to reconsider this. Now, if Jake said, hey, I've now reconsidered this, and now that I've seen this information, I'm rethinking it, I think that a lot of community support would magically appear.
He's not going to change his mind.
I was on the fence on this originally, and one of the things that William brought think about is beautification. You've mentioned it several times, and I said, okay, let's talk beautification. We're not talking about an armpit of Granada Hills. Mm-hmm. This is not the case here.
It looks nice.
Right? It already looks nice.
It looks
so my thinking there is this, and from the very beginning I got into this console because I thought the concentration seems to be in this part of Granada Hills. Granada Hills is a big area. There's a lot more other areas of Granada Hills that needs beautification that I think we could use. Now, why would we want to improve one section that's already been improved when we have so many other areas that it could use improving to? And that's the way I'm looking at it. And up to a certain extent, yes, I am taking into consideration Jake because he has a financial situation with it that none of us will have. To us, it's just a beautification thing. But I think as being neighborly and being, caring for neighbors, you certainly should take that into consideration because that's his pocket. It's not my pocket. It's not your pocket. To us, it's just beautification. So my thinking there is, we're not talking about the armpit of Granada Hills and we're going to improve that and it's going to do that kind of effect on it. We're talking about one that's already nice and maybe improving it again when we could use that improvement possibly somewhere else. Just my thought.
I wanted to also mention something because of what Richard said. That project was the partnership by the property owners and their business improvement district to fix their area. If this project had been presented to us, 15 years ago when we were starting the business improvement district, when that corner was the armpit of this area.
And it was considered foreclosure.
And we actually looked at that as a possibility 15 years ago. We actually had a picture of a drawing of what if, because that was the most awful corner, and the business that was on that corner was infested with rats.
It was like a Korean restaurant?
It was, on the outside, it claimed to be a Korean restaurant.
Yes,
it was something
when I first got
else.
here, that's what it was.
Okay, the chamber went out there, we went out there one weekend, we mowed the lawns, and we got rid of the weeds in front of that Korean place. They did nothing for the community.
Okay, that's I remember now.
It was the armpit, it was awful. And we actually looked into the closing of it. Not only would we have needed the permission of the property owner, but it would have cost us a lot of money to do the repairs and the improvement that was necessary to make this thing the vision of what we had to improve all of Granada Hills, and it's going all the way up and down, all the way to Encino, and that's all engineered and architect and lots of money by all these property owners. And and they've coordinated, and the Rotary put tons of money into that corner and pays for the constant upkeep of that. And that was very, very detailed. Okay, so we had, to do all that we've been doing, it's been a partnership with the businesses and the Business Improvement District. Some of the businesses are paying for the water that we plan to put on White Oak, and it takes a partnership. And you don't just go and say, okay, you're my partner now that you've put all this money for us into this corner. But now, we don't want you to be a corner lot anymore. You've put all your money and your life savings and you bought that property, and he actually owns that whole area. And say, but people, 30,000 people that live around here want to take your corner away and use it for something else. Well, this is, the USA, and you just don't do that. You might say, but what if everybody around wants it? He bought a corner lot, and he's contributed to the community. And without that business partnership, you can't have anything nearly as lovely as what's there now. It just, because
you can't improve on it?
Huh?
You can't improve on it?
Who's going to do it if the Business Improvement District says they won't do it, and the owner says he won't do
to that part yet. I mean, she doesn't even, DOT could just, nix this whole thing. It's give her the benefit of the doubt, at least the opportunity.
Well, no, because the first step that she has ignored is you have to get the business owner to agree first. That's what the law is. That's what it says.
There's no possible way this is going to happen without Jake's communication.
Well, then that's where you need to work first.
Well, didn't she just explain that, where she has brought all this information, she hasn't even met Jake yet.
Are you kidding? He's seen everything.
No, he hasn't seen this video, this updated date information from the property owners, not yet.
Okay.
This interview with this property with this business owner, not yet.
No, what are we going to do? Make Jake sit with her? This is something she has to do first.
Give her the opportunity. You can't speak for Jake.
But we can't speak for Jake either. But what I'm saying
that's what I'm saying. Give her the opportunity.
I actually spoke to Jake. I called him this.
Let her find out for herself first.
We're trying to tell everybody's told you that Jake's not going to do it.
He saw the pictures.
He's trying to be a nice guy.
If Jake's not going to do it, then it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
But I just want to have the opportunity to present the information, which I think has a strong evidence base that this is an economic win.
Again, as a business owner, if somebody came into my business and said, you need to do what I'm telling you to do to increase your business, I think I, as a business owner, have the right to decide myself what I need to do to increase my business. And if somebody says, why don't I close the street in front of my office, have a people street right there, close the street, because I'll have a lot more walk-in traffic. And I don't know that I'm gonna go with
Well, I
that.
agree that Jay gets to make decisions about his
my wife
business,
wants
but
to
that
say something. I do
triangle,
that.
Yeah.
hold on, to say that the community doesn't have input, that triangle and that street are actually City of Los
Well,
Angeles
so is,
property.
every street is owned by
So to say
the
that the
government,
community
close
should
any
have,
street.
yeah,
Any
so
street
the
is
community
owned.
should have input into use of city property.
But that works on every street, every house. So everybody, every one of these businesses can be told, we want to close the
Let's
street.
give the one
We don't
person
do
that hasn't said anything, Cynthia, a chance. Just because I've never seen you raise your hand.
It just bothers me that this one person has the right to say what everybody else should want. It just doesn't.
Honey, it is the application. If the
I know,
property
I
owner says he
understand.
doesn't want
I
it,
understand
that's reason
that.
to
So
go.
then it's not-
Otherwise, it's inverse condemnation.
I guess what
Then the whole thing is redundant. So what are we here for, and what are we wasting our time
But the triangle
jabbering
is-
about?
Well, we need to talk about whether it's a project that beautifies Granada Hills and is worthy of the neighborhood council support because it makes it a more beautiful, more pedestrian-friendly place to be, which is what we talk about all the time, our small town feel, our pedestrian use. We did all the improvements, the bid did all the improvements to get pedestrian use. So it's just simple.
When they started the trucks,
The trucks, yes.
when they started the trucks, there were, and I know there were business owners that were totally against that. Totally against that.
Almost the whole street was against.
And
The first couple of
now-
events, Wednesday and Friday.
And now they realize that they can get business from this. But they did not see that before the truck
Actually,
started.
they all close their doors now.
They all close
They all
their,
close
people
their
want to
doors.
use their
No, they don't.
bathrooms
Instead.
and everything.
Menchie's is open till
No.
11.
Yeah, but they,
Yeah.
wanna use
they,
their
Menchie's
what they
is
did
open,
is the business.
what's her name?
Right.
The Filipino bakery
Angelica.
place. Angelica's place is open. She's open.
Right.
She's found out she can get all
She's
kinds of.
closed now. I've seen that she closes
Well, that's
early.
because of the
Yeah.
cancer.
But
And Safeway Liquor, they're.
well, what they did is the chamber, went around and got the businesses to agree to Friday nights.
So she
The
can't
businesses
be
would be out of business if
So
we
it's
had those
not
food trucks here 3 or 4 nights a
what
week.
people
That would have
presume,
killed
you know, this
businesses.
is-
Okay, they all agreed, they said, we can handle Friday night. Because when
Okay.
the food trucks were here Wednesdays and Fridays, they virtually shut down every business on the street from 11 o'clock.
So then,
Do all
what
the
good?
evening.
So how did the food trucks help our community then?
They bring foot traffic, but they could have closed.
For what?
But
Huh?
it's just nice to go and
They
bring
bring
walk around with your
foot
family,
traffic
you know,
and they bring trash.
And they bring money to all these owners of these trucks that don't live in Granada Hills.
It's fun to go.
I don't see how the food trucks
But the
have helped
business owners, everybody
our
wants to use the
community at
bathrooms.
all.
But that,
It's generated interest in Granada Hills because when they look for a food truck, they know this is where it is.
And again, Linda's point is if we have an additional pedestrian triangle and we have food truck night and we have like,
movie
every
night
other
or-
week movie night in this little pedestrian use area, doesn't that make it more of a destination to get people there Monday through Sunday?
When I was when I was a teenager, I lived in Orange County, and they used to take one block of street downtown and block it off on a summer night,
Nationwide.
and they'd have a band. They'd have a concert. You'd have a street dance.
okay,
Everybody
where do
would
you
dance in the
think-
street.
Where do you
But-
think all these people, all this extra people that they say are going to be here, where are they going to park?
The same place they do on truck night,
No, on truck night they have to park blocks away where they want.
and they do.
Right, but you have a bunch of businesses that have 1 or 2 spaces in front of them all the way down for 4 blocks.
And would have hundreds of
That-
people in front of them.
And no one would get to them. The businesses all were against the food trucks because their customers couldn't get into their business. It's hair salons and
And so,
insurance
and
companies
so
and all
they're
that.
still having the food trucks, aren't aren't they?
Yeah, only Friday nights. Those businesses were ready to close down and move away because their customers could not get into their businesses.
I
And
refer
see,
you back to
Friday night,
these are
I live in the
Granada
neighborhood.
businesses.
I avoid that street on Friday
Okay,
night.
but
And we're
now,
gonna see how long
you
the
have to have
food
people
trucks go on,
avoiding
because
it a lot more
prices
often
just
because
go
you're
way
going to
up.
take away all the
There,
parking.
I wouldn't
No.
go
But
to
all of
food
these
trucks.
businesses
Their cost
have
of doing
signed
business
letters
has gone
saying
probably
they're in
trouble.
favor of this.
Their-
So to say all the businesses
their
are against
food isn't
this.
worth it.
No, their cost of doing business might drive them
Okay,
away.
so
Good.
And
It's fun to go.
I could care less.
It's fun to go, man.
The hotel
Help me.
lounges love it. They love it.
Okay.
You want more
Could be
less
less
service,
expensive.
they love it.
Let's give her the opportunity to speak to Jake. Okay?
I mean, yeah, I'm not, no one's gonna, this is not about steamrolling or bullying anybody. I mean, I just want, I mean, you saw the video, right? It's not me just being crazy thinking this is pro-business. It's not me just making this up. I have 2 other videos that are on my website that you guys can go see. I just didn't want this meeting to go for 5 hours, you know? But I mean, but it's not me just going, screw you, business owners. I mean, this is win-win.
I actually took time out of my day because I wanted to find out, for instance, if I went down to Main Cheese and that market down the street from them. Both buildings are actually owned by Jake. The building with the market and that yogurt place, Menchie's. So they're both owned by them. Now I spoke to both business owners and they both told me they were against this. And then I spoke to Jake and Jake said he was against it. Because the only time I heard about this whole thing was when Linda showed up at one of our meetings, and that's when it came about. But I just wanted to find out for myself, if I approached those people, what would they say? And that was just me kind of being nosy and all that kind of thing. But I've spoken to Jake today, and I told him, Jake, Linda's going to be there. And I said, what is your position on this? And he said, absolutely not. Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Linda, you've already brought it to the neighborhood council, so you're coming here again. If your goal intent was to talk to Jake again, you should have done that before you got here.
I've been talking to Jake at every possible opportunity. We're trying to find a meeting time before August is out. You know, I just got an email from Andy. Andy said, I'm working 60 hours a week right now. I'm available weekends. And so we're working on a meeting time. I mean, like I said, you know, if they, I wanted to provide them with more up-to-date information about the experience of these business owners who had a plaza in front of their business. And if once they see that, then and if he's still against it, then he's still against it, and then it's over. You know? But I think it's reasonable for me to ask them to make an evidence-based decision.
But I wish you'd have done that before you had everybody here. I changed my whole schedule to be here, and it's wasting my time.
I was invited to come and
Well, I know,
encouraged to
but
come.
you just said you needed to talk to Jake again. You should have done that before you got here.
Well, if it was possible for me to engineer Jake's calendar, I would, but I can't.
This project can't happen without the partnership. He's next. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just in full disclosure, I've never met Linda. I didn't know her name. I didn't know anything. I've been following this as it's been bubbling through my social network, lurking and what have you. You know, again, to reiterate what I said before, I missed the first round from home in New York City, missed the Silver Lake round, and I'm going to have a presence and have a voice with this one. I know Jake personally. I've been getting my shirts done with him for 8 years, and I asked him point blank, "What's your opinion, bud, on that fact that you're the guy paying for the lawnmower out in front of that beautiful memorial thing? So what's your opinion?" I didn't even care about the mentions thing, honestly. I was concerned that he was going to feel that it was going to be traipsed upon or in some way desecrated. I was really, from an emotional perspective, it's a memorial. Come on, it's
their names on those
being
blocks.
sensitive to that. That's what I was asking him, and I did not, in all fairness, find it completely convincing to prohibit something that could be set up to be established. Where a memorial could be incorporated, separate but included, into the plaza. The Menchie's foot traffic, you know, there really is only, I think, 3 actual parking spots. So you can't say that, oh, I'm losing business because cars can't park here. There's no... In other words, although legitimate concerns, to me, they do not, on the fulcrum, tilt in any way, making this a fatal proposal. And just, again, as, you know, Granada Hills resident, not knowing really anyone but Paul, because our kids went to school together, was not even here, just wanted to be heard from the end user's perspective. So I just like to be there. I just want to go there.
I'd say we welcome, and that's what we encourage.
And I think all of you, had exceptional statements, but just,
Yeah, the neighborhood council exists to be a voice for the community. It doesn't
Exactly.
exist to be a voice for you know.
Oh, I would, I know we keep going back to Jake, and Jake has his position and everything else, but every time we go back to Jake, we're getting off topic, okay? I'm taking you right back again to the question here, and the question for this committee to decide, is this a project that would make Granada Hills more beautiful and benefit the community as a whole? Now, forget the fact that, Bonnie, you have your relationship with BID and with all the business owners for the last 20 years, and Richard with the Chamber of Commerce. I understand, the 45 pages too. Yes, and I do too, but sometimes we choose which ones we actually want to recognize or not, and ignore or not. So we don't have to go all the way into facts situations per se. But what I want to stay on here is the fact that Linda's doing a great thing for our community. She's brought up an issue that's actually created some division in the community, and that's a good thing.
It's not.
Because, yes, it is a good thing, because people get to express their opinions, and that's what we should be about. If there's 1,000 residents in Granada Hills that have signed a petition saying they would like to see a beautiful plaza in that redundant street area, then that's something that we need to recognize and not just slough off. She's not asking you to go against anybody or anything. She's asking you to support the position that this would be a beautification project for Granada Hills that would benefit the businesses and the community. Okay? I know Richard's got his 45 pages, and I know what they say. But that's, again, we need to take it back, close down our biases, close down our preconceived relationships with other people that have taken a position on it that we have an allegiance to, and look at this open-mindedly as a beautification project that she has brought forward to get your support or statement of non-support. I mean, take a position. Are you going to support her or not support her? Because we can discuss the pros and cons until we're blue in the face at this point, because we've got a community that's divided on it.
Okay, all of the people, all of the businesses, the nonprofit organizations, every one of those organizations that have worked for the beautification of this entire area, all of them have come out against this project because all of them do not see it as a project that will either enhance nor beautify any part of Old Granada Village.
Okay.
I don't get that.
All of them?
Never mind.
That's a pretty broad statement.
Well, there's only through the community partners. That's the Business Improvement District, which
I'm talking about the
runs
people.
the street. No, but the people aren't paying for the beautification. I'm telling you, the people.
The BID isn't paying for this either, Bonnie.
Excuse me.
The BID is not paying for this,
No,
so they don't
the BID
have the responsibility.
The BID pays for beautification. The Rotary has paid for beautification. The business
and
owners
this is for someone else to be
and commercial
paid
property
for.
owners have paid for beautification. And none of them see this as a project that is going to beautify Granada Hills.
Again, I feel like you're being in a very closed-minded position. I have not seen official positions taken by those people on this project, written anywhere, publicized anywhere. So again, I want to take us back and keep us open-minded as a neighborhood council that recognizes there's 1,000 people out there in Granada Hills that want this thing, and there's a bunch of business owners that don't want it. There are some business owners that do want it. You have division. So we need to do maybe what we need to do is a community impact
If you're going to go by
statement.
the number of people, there are 50,000 residents in Granada Hills and 25,000 people who live in Granada Hills, and there are a handful of businesses. So take a vote. The people who want to close the businesses in order to have a party on the street might have a higher number of people
It
voting.
won't close the businesses. You've got no proof that that would happen.
All right.
The trucks?
I'm sorry.
Let's hear from him.
I came here, like I said, to find out about becoming part of Granada Hills South and everything. I don't have a business in town. I've been a business owner for many years in the city of San Fernando. City of San Fernando, about 7, 8 years ago or longer, they took an idea of McClay Street, and they showed people this beautiful walking. It is gorgeous. The library plaza they put in there is fantastic. The only thing nobody took into consideration is the traffic. When the courthouse gets out, when the local schools get out, it takes you to get from Truman Street to Foothill Boulevard to get the freeway. It takes you a good 25 minutes, 30 minutes. People now bypass that entire business district. You want to see the vacancies of the business that went out of business because by closing a certain thing, when the school gets out of Granada Hills, the traffic is the main thing you need to look at. Bottom line, seriously, traffic thing.
But DOT does that.
With your, I'll counter what you said.
Okay.
Taking a position on this project is basically irrelevant because it's not going to happen. We might as well take a position to raise Mission Peak to cut down the wind.